Good morning, students. And this specific video is being made for the students of class 10th because when I was teaching the chapter the nationalism in India, I got many questions. Since it is not possible for me to answer each and every one in a separate way, so I decided to make a video so that you all will be getting your answers. The topic of discussion was the nationalism in India. When I was teaching, I simply said that nationalism doesn't mean that people claim to be loving their nation. It doesn't mean that. What I mean to say that just because someone is saying that I love my nation, it does not necessarily mean that the person loves his or her nation. If we see in great detail, we come to know that nationalism means that the person should know how to love the people of his nation before he claims to be loving his nation. This is a great definition of nationalism. So in short, what we can say that nationalism means when a person loves the people of his country and then say that yes, I love my nation. So this is a broad sense of the definition of nationalism. And in a simple way, you can say that a feeling that comes from within when a person claims that he is ready to sacrifice everything because of the love of the nation. Coming to the point, when I was saying that Indian nationalism, it begins with Mahatma Gandhi. A question was raised that we know about the revolt of 1857. You are absolutely right that we Indians had revolted against the British regime in 1857, and at that time many people from different areas, various areas of the nation, they revolted against the British regime, and we wanted the British to leave our country. But at the same time, we should also come to know, we should know, I think, that it was Mahatma Gandhi, when he went, he had gone to South Africa, and where he himself saw what discrimination meant. The black and dogs, they were not allowed to hotels, restaurant. Gandhiji was, you might have heard about the incident that he was traveling by a train, and he had a first class ticket, and a white man enters and says that what are you doing here? Gandhiji, looking at him, he says in flat English that I have the ticket. The person, he doesn't listen to Mahatma Gandhi. He throws his luggage and he throws Mahatma Gandhi also out of the compartment on the next station. So when Gandhiji came in India, he first met Shri Gopal Krishna Gokhale, who he himself said to be his political preceptor or political guru. So when Gandhiji met Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Gandhiji was advised that you should visit all different parts of the nation so that you may come to know about the civilization, the different culture, different people, their way of living, and the grassroots problems, the problems that are there on the ground. So Gandhiji decided to travel different parts of India, and in that specific phase, he was invited to Champaran, where the farmers, they were being forced to grow indigo, and they didn't want to grow indigo. So Ram Kumar Shukla or Raj Kumar Shukla, he was the person who had sent an invitation to Mahatma Gandhi, and he requested Gandhiji that you should come to Champaran and lead us. This was the first movement of which was led by Mahatma Gandhi, and the movement got success. So Gandhiji went there and he fought, and he, when Gandhiji was told by the district collector that you should leave this place, Gandhiji said, I am ready to get myself arrested. You can arrest me, but I am not going to leave these farmers alone. Thereafter, Kheda, and you might have heard about the Ahmedabad mill workers, where Gandhiji led the movement. But when we think about the Rolex Satyagraha, I think you know that after the First World War, when we Indians, we were thinking that since we had supported the British, so we would be given some facilities, some leniency, some freedom by the British. But In response to our support, they simply enacted Rolex Act. They appointed Mr. Rolex, and Mr. Rolex made a law, and the law was finally passed. So Rolex Act said that if police doubts you, even though they don't have any evidence against you, if they doubt, they can arrest you. You can be put behind bars. You won't be allowed to hire an advocate. There would be no logical debate in the court of law. So Gandhiji also protested, and he asked Indians to stand up against the injustice. But the real journey starts when the non-cooperation movement started by Mahatma Gandhi. One of the most important movement. Some people said, many historians, they also claimed that non-cooperation movement was the first nationwide movement where all Indians, they forgot all their mutual differences. They came on a common platform and they started fighting against the British regime. So non-cooperation simply means that when people stop cooperating the government, that is non-cooperation. So Gandhiji said that the teachers should not go to schools, they should boycott government schools, lawyers should boycott the court of law, and people, they should also boycott the court of law which had been set by the British, and they should try to sort out all their problems by the village panchayat. This movement was going on, and then we come to know about the Chauri Channa incident. I think it is situated in Gorakhpur, Uttar Pradesh. Chauri Channa is a place, and some young people, they were having a rally. So when the rally crossed around a police station at that time, some sources say that the policeman opened fire, whereas some other sources said that a policeman used foul languages. So finally whatever happened, and the people, they got angry and they set the police station on fire. It is reported that 22 policemen, they were killed, and when this message reached Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhiji simply said that I don't advocate for violence. And that was the reason that Mahatma Gandhi decided to call off the movement. And when the movement was called off, even Subhash Chandra Bose and Motilal Nehru ji, and they were not happy. Even Rabindranath Tagore, he was not happy. And thereafter we know that the revolutionary phase started. Many revolutionaries, they come in between, they started playing their role, and Chandrasekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, Rajguru, and many more unnamed revolutionaries. Thereafter we see that Mahatma Gandhi, he thought that a bigger movement was needed, and he wrote a letter to Viceroy Lord Irwin, and he said that I have these 11 demands. If you are ready to accept these demands, then okay. If you are not, then I am going to launch a bigger movement against you. Lord Irwin, the Viceroy, when he read the letter, he ignored, because what he was thinking that Mahatma Gandhi was not so much able to shake the root of the British regime, so he ignored him. And Gandhiji then, after thinking all pros and cons, Gandhiji decided that salt should be the medium, salt should be the symbol, because that government had also banned salt making by the people. For example, if you are living in coastal areas, then how salt is made, water is collected, water is stored, finally due to evaporation the water vapor goes up and salt remains there. So this was the old way of making salt, and salt is useful for everyone, irrespective whether you are rich or poor. Salt is useful. So Gandhiji was thinking that if salt is made the symbol of this movement, then we will be getting big support from the people. And he was absolutely right. So he started a salt march from from Sabarmati to Dandi, and finally the salt law was broken. Thereafter again we see that when British found that the movement was getting bigger, they invited Mahatma Gandhi to take part in round table conferences. There were 3 round table conferences, and Gandhiji only participated in round table conference number 2. So when he went there, he was thinking in a positive way that he would be supported by the British, but unfortunately it didn't happen. And finally Gandhiji, having felt himself cheated, he came back to India and he said that I didn't allow myself to be sold to the British. These situations, now coming to the point that when this is the situation when you have about 80 to 90% people illiterate, uneducated, when you are being ruled by the tyrants, when you yourself do not know whether people they would remain non-violent or not. So in these type of situations, Mahatma Gandhi, he was panicked, and he decided that he should be the only person to lead all the movements. And that is why whenever people they went violent, Mahatma Gandhi called off the movement. Again this movement, so Gandhiji, when he went to England to take part in Round Table Conference, at that time he had postponed or called off the movement, and when he came back he restarted the movement. So these two movements, and the strategy was the same even in both movements, non-cooperation and civil disobedience movement. The women, they also played a very major role. For example, they started dharnas, picketing, and they also helped satyagrahis, and they were the sole medium to spread education about the Gandhiism and Gandhi and his thoughts. So finally we cannot say that these two movements, in my previous lecture when I said that these two movements, non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement, they were fruitful. So a student stood up and said, so if these two movements were fruitful, then why couldn't we get freedom? That is why I have made this video, so that your doubts may be cleared. Just because these two movements couldn't bring us freedom, it does not mean that these two movements didn't do anything for us. They help people getting united, they help people getting educated, they help people getting to know about the foreign regime. And these two movements, the major role is that people, they forgot their mutual differences, and they found that Congress is the Indian National Congress of that time. I'm not talking about the Congress of this time, I'm talking about the Congress of that time. So they found that Indian National Congress, it was a common platform for all the people of all the nation, of entire nation. And irrespective of differences, mutual differences, religious differences, caste-based differences, regional differences, all people, they got united. And this unity, the credit should be given to Mahatma Gandhi, because it was his non-violent satyagraha strategy that helped people. If you are violent, then only the brave people, they can take up arms and they can go and fight. But the strategy of Mahatma Gandhi, like stay non-violent, do not kill, and face everything. If you have pious heart, then the people's heart would get changed. These are the things which could be followed by every person, irrespective whether you are very weak or whether you are very strong. The only thing you need to have is the pious intention. So I conclude this topic that when Gandhiji returned from South Africa, and he started looking at different situation in India, in different parts of India. So finally he came to one common conclusion, and his conclusion was, we cannot get freedom until and unless we are united. We are united means all people. We should end all type of religious and caste-based differences. So this very important message was given by Mahatma Gandhi, and that is why today we call him the father of our nation. And one more message, class 10th, I would like to give you from this chapter, that Gandhiji was the first person in our country who messaged us to be non-violent. Earlier, as our religious scriptures, they say us, they message us that we need to be non-violent, especially Gita. Okay, but Gita also says that if the aim is pious, then we may go violent. But Mahatma Gandhi, he opposed, he took a different path, and he said that no, whatever the situation is, irrespective whether you can take up arms, whether you are very weak and unable to take up arms, whatever the situation is, you should always be non-violent. Violence is not an answer to the problems. So looking at these two problems, especially these two movements, we come to know that Mahatma Gandhi, he was right in his approach, because he messaged all Indians to come on a common platform and to forget all the mutual differences, to stay non-violent, to follow satyagrah, and more importantly, he was a very practical man. So when someone says, your book also says, that Gandhiji was a very practical man, and to explain whether he was practical or not, I have already given you an example that he had selected salt as a symbol while starting civil disobedience movement. Means he was able to understand that what should be done. So ultimately, I think your doubts must be cleared that after coming from South Africa, Gandhiji, he visited different parts of India, and he led some small movements including Champaran Kheda and Ahmedabad mill workers. Then Rolex Satyagraha came, then Jallianwala Bagh, you know about that. I missed it in my lecture conveniently because you know about that. And we also know that how the non-cooperation movement was started and called off. The phase between the non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement, it is a tragic phase. Tragic in a sense that many revolutionaries, they started thinking that no, we cannot get freedom by staying or by remaining non-violent. We need to be violent. Against the violent. They said that we need to be violent against the violent to ensure non-violence. This was their philosophy. And then Sardar Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, and many youth, Ashfaqullah Khan, and they took up arms and they started trying their level best to get freedom for the brethren, for Indians. Later on, we saw that the next movement where salt was symbol, civil disobedience movement, it was started. And again, your book doesn't cover it, but thereafter again in the second phase, revolutionary movement is started after the failure of civil disobedience movement. Then Quit India movement came. So dear students of class 10, let me be very clear that when we say that Mahatma Gandhiji, he was leading all the movements from the front, it means we are talking about a reality. It is not like that Gandhiji asked people that you go in the field and when police lathi charge, then you stay cool and calm. He himself presented it. He himself went there. He faced the brutal lathi charge by the British police, and then he messaged. But still he was non-violent. So I think, one more doubt that was in the definition, that what does the word nationalism mean? Nationalism, in short, it means that person is ready to sacrifice everything for his or her nation. But at the same time, the same person, he should have pious love for the people of his or her nation. If he doesn't have, or if she doesn't have, his nationalism is pseudo-nationalism. This is all about what your book says. Thank you very much for joining this session. Goodbye.